guys, this is Dave with Audio and today we're going to be taking a look at the Phoenixcall, which is Celest's newest tribrid IM. And Celest is a relatively new company. However, their parent company, Kinera, has been around for quite some time, and I've owned several of their IMs, including the Nana 2.0, and the Erd. But those IMs are $650 plus. So now, with the introduction of the Celest brand, we've seen more entry-level, budget-friendly IMs come on the scene, like the Pandemon and Gumiho, which, from what I've seen, seem to have been fairly well received within the audio community. And now we have their latest, soon-to-be-released tribrid IM, the Phoenixcall. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what's included in the box, go over the specifications and design, and then we'll get into the sound. I have everything on the table that's included with the Phoenixcall. Of course, it comes with the IMs and cable. It also comes with a fairly simple case, a selection of wide and narrow bore tips, a metal bookmark, the warranty information and guide, and then also some additional information regarding the story behind the development of the Phoenixcall. Now, as for the price, specifications, and design, they have not released the price as of yet, but most of the comparisons I've been doing have been with IMs in the $100 to $200 price range, just based on its driver configuration and its general performance. Speaking of which, it has a tribrid driver configuration consisting of one dynamic driver, two balanced armature drivers, and two of what Celest is referring to as microplanar drivers, or SPD drivers. They have an impedance of 32 ohms and a sensitivity of 103 dBs. In regards to the build, the shells look to be constructed of some type of pretty high quality resin. The round shape is not only cool looking, especially with the design approach they took with the faceplates, but in regards to the fit, this shape combined with the length of the nozzle they chose and the angle of the nozzle seems to be well thought out. It fits really well in my ears. It's a very secure fit and it gives you a really good sill as well, especially with the supplied tips. The cable quality is also very good. It's soft, it's pliable, which makes it easy to manage and store. So the build quality of both the IMs and cable is very, very good. As for the design, I have to say, for me personally, it's a little more bold than what I'm used to. That's not to say I don't like it, because I definitely have an artsy side. However, my artsy side is very minimalistic and colorless. That being said, I think they may have two design options to choose from when it's released. This one and then one that has a standard clear shell but with the same faceplate, and then from the picture I've seen, the cable is just a plain white or silver cable. And that pair looks really beautiful as well. But the truth of the matter is, while the colors are a little, again, on the bold side, for me, it's still very beautiful and the build quality is really, really good. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the Phoenixcall. So again, they have not released the price yet, but based on the driver configuration, the build quality, and performance, I've been comparing it to IMs in the $100 to $200 price range. And I will talk more about that towards the end of the review, but let's go ahead and talk about the sound of the Phoenixcall. So its overall signature is what I would consider to be V-shaped, and not a mild V-shape either. And the reason I say that is because the mids around 600 hertz are quite recessed, and the rise coming out of the mids is fairly sharp, going in both directions. So you have a sharp rise going into the low mids and mid bass, and then a sharp rise going the other direction into the upper mids. But when you step back and you look at its general presentation, while there are some aspects of the tuning that can cause it to sometimes sound a little unnatural, for the most part, instruments and vocals sound natural enough, and it also sounds generally balanced as well. But if we break things down a little further, starting with the bass, what you see is a sub-bass focused tuning. So you have plenty of sub-bass rumble, which really helps. Again, I always like a little sub bass there because, again, that helps to reinforce and anchor the rest of the bass frequencies, but it also gives you a significant amount of mid bass energy as well, which gives you really nice amounts of slam and impact, but also brings a sense of richness to the notes. But that does come at the cost of some loss of mid-range, the low mid-range clarity, which we know is generally to be expected with a V-shaped tuning approach. But I have to say, otherwise, the overall bass quality is very good in almost every other regard. So great dynamics, really good impact, good speed and attack, and it also has, again, that visceral, really satisfying air moving quality. Now, as for the mid-range, again, as I had mentioned, there is a significant amount of mid-bass presence, which does encroach on the lower mids, causing it to lose some low mid detail, but it also brings a nice sense of warmth and additional note weight, which gives male vocals and instruments that land there a more rich and full presentation. Then, as you move up the frequency spectrum into the mids and upper mids, we get to the point in the graph where the mids bottom out around 600 hertz, and then there's a sharp rise. We talked about that sharp rise in both directions, and the sharp rise going into the upper mids, it peaks out pretty early around 1.5K, which that can contribute to vocals and some instruments sounding a little unnatural. But then when you look at the mid-range detail, again, it could use more in the lower mids, but it does get better in the opposite direction as you move into the upper mids and trebles. As a matter of fact, the upper mid detail is really good, and even though it can occasionally, again, it can come across as a little unnatural, it does still give you good vocal and instrument texture and resolve. Now, as for the treble, there is, along with that upper mid-range energy, there's also a pretty significant amount of energy in the treble as well. Again, that helps balance out the bass and keep that in check. And as for the upper treble presence, it's adequate. I think it could use a little more treble energy, but it is enough to bring any air and sparkle out if it's present in the recording. As for technicalities, the soundstage is slightly wider than average for an IEM. However, the forward depth and layering are about average, as is the overall instrument and imaging and separation. The imaging is pretty good, but could use a little more focus. As for detail, again, it could use some improvement in the lower mids, but it does improve quite a bit in the higher frequencies. However, I would say the upper mid-range and treble detail is actually quite good, but it could have used a little improvement in the micro details. Now, as for where it lands in terms of the competition, again, most of my comparisons were done with IEMs in the $100 to $200 price range, like the GK100, UMA 2, the Talos, and even the Falcon Ultra, even though that's a little over 200. And then on the low end of the budget spectrum was the Dunu Kima Classic, Galileo, and then several more. I think there were a total of about 10 IEMs I did comparisons with. So in terms of tuning, I would say the Phoenixcall lands right in the middle. So not quite to the levels of the UMA 2, Talos, or Falcon Ultra. And I would attribute that mainly to the unevenness that we talked about in the mid-range. And the mids are also a little more recessed with the Phoenixcall, which again, that leads to just a little bit of unnaturalness in its general presentation. And like I had said, it doesn't sound so unnatural that it takes away from the listening experience. And it is still balanced enough to give the Phoenixcall a more mature presentation, given the fact that it has a V-shaped signature. And as V-shaped signatures go in this price range, I would say it's generally good. Now, in terms of its technical performance, I would say it's pushing even closer to the UMA 2, Talos, and even the Falcon Ultra. And that was probably what impressed me the most about this set, and was kind of the attribute that took my listening level up another notch and made me think this could compete at a little bit of a higher price range than what I initially thought. So I think this set will probably appeal to those who are looking for a more engaging, fun presentation, but don't want to sacrifice technical performance either. And this will kind of give you both. Now, as for whether it gets my recommendation, yes, if this set lands where I think it's going to land in terms of pricing, then I think this set will actually do very, very well. And I'm pretty excited to see what happens when this actually hits the market. So that concludes my review of the Kinera Celest Phoenixcall. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you like my content, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would please like this video, please share this video. I hope you have an awesome day.